Welcome back, baseball fans. 1972-75 carryover league card set analysis. Tonight we begin looking at the 1974 box, the third of the fourth year in the league. This had the rookie class of a year ago, so it's an interesting look in this box is that we're going to see designated keepers, carry-on guys from a different year, but there's also going to be some straggler rookies who have protection by these teams until the fourth round of the draft is over, and then they become free agents. So it's their second crack to get in with a team that protected them, and if they don't get picked in the first four rounds, then they are a free agent. So it's that sometimes it's very critical, the timing of when you decide to pick a player, so as you don't lose your protection. This is the 74 box. We've got the roster sheet here. It says the year that you're playing, the year after. There's a bunch of notes I made when I was doing this. There was 574 Strat cards. So of course, you know, I wrote in, followed the path of players of which card they had, extra guys. And of course there's been a redraft of 640 like we do in all the years. So there's a bunch of nameless extra player guys here that I wrote in. You got your waivers, your retired guys that we've already designated. So let's get started tonight. We're just going to go through two divisions, the American League East and the American League North, and then we'll call it. We'll start in the East with Baltimore. Their four keepers are Belanger, Lee May, Brooks Robinson, and Earl Williams. They got them all for you. There's not, you don't have to have all four in a year, but over the period of 4 years, you have, you know, obviously you do. But for Baltimore, they do have all four in this particular season, 3 years out from the beginning point. Belanger, pretty much it all matters is defense, and he's going to be a 1 in all 3 of the 4 seasons, so his batting average doesn't really matter too much. This Lee May is probably still in Houston. There he is. But Baltimore could take this versus the 75 Baltimore card. We think this is going to be the Brooks Robinson card selected as Brooksy. He's still that Gold Glover, but he's hitting 288. Power's way down, but 288's 288, folks. That's fantastic. Hits lefties better than righties. Against righties, he could hit and run a bunt if you don't want him swinging away. Did give him full-time power with just 7 homers, so there's a bunch of upside to this card. Earl Williams in 74, still with Baltimore. His homers are down to 14 now, so you probably want to get him when he's a little bit younger. And then you have, of course, all the guys who have carry-on cards. Hutton, who is probably not a long-term player. Cuellar and Palmer. Singleton they traded for. Grant Jackson, Al Bunbury. So let's take a look. I got to flip these over. When I do, it'll show you cards that aren't in the league yet. These are protected players, and it's just going to be 2. So Dave Rosello was drafted into Baltimore, even though he was actually a Cub, with his utility player card. Not much there. But Wayne Garland is a decent pitcher here, and he will lose his Baltimore protection if they don't take him in the first 4 rounds of the draft. I'll stop saying that now that you understand. But he's got a 297 ERA in the bullpen, and he will win 20 games in 76 for Baltimore. So he's going to be in baseball pretty soon. And the Orioles are on the clock for that. Next up, Boston. Their 4 keepers are Petrocelli, Wise, Moret, and Steve Blast, who is no longer here because his career's over. But Petrocelli picks it up a little bit here in 74 after a couple down years. His batting average is up to 267 with 15 home runs. That's pretty good. He was down in the 230s, so you might take this one for Petrocelli. Brick Wise is a starter 5, not a good year for him. No, 49 innings. And Moret has a nice 75 and a nice 72, I think. This year's okay. But of the 3, I like Petrocelli. The other guys, not so much. I mean, Griffin and Fisk and Tiant and Yaz and Harper and Lee are already on this team in a different year. You flip it over to look at rookies. They still have the rights to Rick Burleson, and hey, he's going to, from here on out, he's going to be good. He's a 284 hitter at second and short. He's a 2 at second, 3 at short, but you really want to get him on your team sooner than later, with Petrocelli playing third. Plus, you unloaded John Kennedy, your shortstop, in the offseason. They have Cecil Cooper. This is a nice card. Has the better one in 75. That's an acceptable card. Dick Pole, a reliever. 420 ERA, 45 innings, nothing special there. But Burleson and Cooper, we do know they played for the Red Sox in their 75 World Series campaign. Good news for Boston. Baltimore and Boston and the Yankees are all going to be really good in this timeline. Let's take a look at the Yankees. They are keeping Bobby Mercer, Greg Nettles, Roy White, and Mel Stottlemyre. Mercer's got a 33 homer card, and I believe in 72. Here he's down in batting average and homers, and he's still a good defensive player. Nettles, I don't get that. A 3 at short. I mean, a 3 at third, a 4 at short. And his average is just okay. 22 home runs. That's the highlight there of this guy. I really want him to be a 2 or maybe a 1 at third base. In 76, he leads the American League in homers. That's a year away. Roy White's defense is terrible here, but boy, he really gets on a lot. He has a fine year with a stick. 275. 67 walks, 473 at-bats. But that defense is terrible. Mel Stottlemyre still plugging right along there. Just chugging along with a 358 ERA. Can't pitch on 3 days rest, 74. So you probably want him in 72 or 3. And then their keepers are Chambliss, who they just acquired in an off-season deal for Fritz Peterson. Sparky Lyle, Doc Medich, Lindy McDaniel, Fred Bean, and Munson. Their rookies. Rick Dempsey, who later goes to Baltimore. I think he was with the Yankees, and before that, I think the Twins maybe. Rick Dempsey. -1 arm catcher here. And Glenn Abbott, who actually wasn't with the Yankees. He was with Oakland. ERA of 3 in 96 innings if you need help in the bullpen. Nothing special out of those guys. If they left the Yankee farm system, it would be no big deal. All right, Toronto. This is really a tough sell for the Blue Jays, as they had a fantastic year and they've kind of fallen on hard times here. They're going to keep Crane Poole, who they traded for, Milt May, Clyde Wright, and Tommy A.G. is the fourth guy, though his career is over by this year. Good Crane Poole card this year and the next year. He gets 300 both years. So that's very good for Crane Poole. This could be, he'd be your lead your club in hitting with that card. Hey, Milt May, this is a nice card. Power both ways against lefties more. Oh boy, yeah, we like this one. 289, looks like a 300 hitter though at first blush. Left-handed hitting catcher with power both ways. That 7 and 405 at bats. So they gave it to him. That was pretty generous. So that was pretty cool. And Clyde Wright has a really good 72. Not so much anymore here. So we have a better card for him earlier. You know, it's not so bad, folks. It's better than I thought for the Blue Jays. I think May and Crane Poole both look decent here. Clyde Wright and AG looked decent earlier in 72 and 3. So it's not that bad. Rick Harrison, Tim Foley, Doe Alexander, Jerry Royce, Elias Sosa, and Lum all have better cards in our league. Their rookie class. Louis Gomez, little utility player here. Roy Howe, third baseman with some stick, no defense, one-way player. Well, they got Mario Mendoza. Hey, 2 shortstops. He's a trade piece. He's a 2 shortstop. Somebody wants him. They got Tim Foley, who's a 2 shortstop. So you got to figure out a way of getting getting some compensation for this guy, believe it or not, because he's a 2 shortstop. Not much else, of course. Steve Swisher. Hey, a nice catcher versus lefties with a -1 arm. Doesn't do too bad versus righties. That's not a bad year. 214. That's a good-looking 214 when you add in the walks. And you play him mostly against lefties. And you like the power. Ernie McAnally, not a lot there. He gets really knocked around by lefties as a starter 6. Gets righties out though. 447. Lowell Palmer. Bunch of rookies. I'll give them that. They do have a lot of guys here. But again, they're just, oh boy. 567. Dan Spillner. And the parade continues of mediocrity here. Dan Spillner. Well, he gets righties out. The homers and walks against lefties are a little difficult to deal with. 401 and 148 innings. That's not too bad for your Padres. So yeah, I'm not sure what they'll do with that. They might just, for this season, they might just go Crane Pool May and call it good. And see if they can find guys on the street better than their rookies. All right, I'm going to take a little break here, and we'll move into the American League North. All right, we'll go into the American League North now with the Expos. Making moves in the offseason. 74. Ron Hunt, Bill Stoneman, Steve Ranko, and Dave McNally. Still kicking around. Hunt has a better year in 73, but it's good to know that he can still get on base with hit by pitches and so forth in 74. Now Stoneman's not any good anymore. 6'10". So you want him in 72, I believe. Ranko, however, he has a really bad 72, but he's got a good 73, and here he can still pitch on 3 days rest. Believe it or not, Dave McNally, he does okay in 74. So dare we say McNally's got 3 options? Didn't think that. Thought that when he went to the Expos he was run out of gas, but there you go, folks. That's not bad at all. He was an Oriole in 74, 16 and 10, 358, 259 innings. So the Expos are going to have 3 good years of Dave McNally, 72, 3, and 4, and you get to pick which ones you want. Have this guy for 3 years, or I think the 72 McNally is probably the best. They're going to carry along Tom Walker, Ted Martinez, J.L. Lew in a trade, Lee Stanton, Bob Reynolds, Bob Bailey, Steve Rogers, Ron Fairley. And I believe, unfortunately, there is nobody left. So, well, you know what happened, folks? They had 2 really good rookies in 74. That was Dale Murray and Mike Jorgensen, and they just added them to the league, and there's no other cards here. So they don't have any options. So they're going to have to take some combination of 1 or 2 of these guys and look on the street for more help in the year of 74. And again, the keepers are more closely associated with the first year. By the time you get to the 3rd and 4th year, a lot of times those guys' careers aren't over. You're keeping a player because he's probably good next year, right? In theory. You just had a nice year with a player and you want him to continue on in the following year. Now we're 3 years out, and the keepers will be less prevalent when we get into the 75 box. Cleveland wants to keep Boog Powell, Ray Fosse, and Fritz Peterson. 2 of these guys in trades. Now Powell, his big year with Cleveland is in 75. This is a nice consolation. Ray Fosse, great arm, hits lefties well. Batting average was pretty weak here, 196. And Fritz Peterson with the Indians, 160 innings, 439. Get him a little younger with his Yankee card, and that'll help these guys out a lot. And then the guys they are carrying on are Pinson, Duffy, Sims, Tidrow, Buddy Bell, Gaylord Perry, Alex Johnson, Jack Brohammer, Lowenstein, and Hilgendorf. The whole crew is here for Cleveland. It's a lot of guys. Let's take a look at their rookies. Luis Alvarado, utility infielder. Nothing really special there. Charlie Spikes, Indian corner outfielder with a ton of power. Look at the power he's got. His defense is okay. Can throw. That's 22 home runs. 271. The walks are kind of low, but you got Oscar Gamble. You got Charlie Spikes. You would have had George Hendrick, but he got selected by another team in the expansion draft. It's time to get Charlie Spikes in the league, probably. Rusty Torres, good defensive outfielder, switch hitter. Stick is, that's not too bad. But a 2 center fielder with a -2 arm is really good. I mean, that batting average is going to be weak. 187. The power's nice. Walks are nice. He could play in the league, but there will probably be guys better taking. He'll lose competition for outfield spots to guys who hit better. Tom Buskey, a decent right-handed reliever. He has a nice little decade with Cleveland. 336. Can't sneeze at that. That's pretty good. I think they traded Vicente Romo in the bullpen, so they need a spot for a right-handed reliever. So there you go. Has trouble keeping the ball in the park, but otherwise, nice year for Tom Buskey. Not bad. Spikes and Buskey, possibly Torres. Plus, you're probably gonna, might go Boog Powell, might go Fosse. 2 more teams in this division. The Tigers, your world, keep saying world champs, they lost. Runners up to the Pirates in the World Series. The American League representative they've won a 3 World Series in the last 5 years. They're keeping Kaline, Stanley, Coleman. The 4th keeper is Norm Cash, whose career is over. And Kaline now is just a DH. It's good to know that Kaline, we can play with Kaline all the way up to this year, because that's a fine season as a designated hitter. Obviously, he's got a 300 year in outfield defense in 72. That's the year we'll take. Mickey Stanley's still a 1 in center field, so we might want to consider this card, even though the batting average is bad. Joe Coleman's a starter 7, but he's got a 4.31 ERA. So these guys, they're starting to get a little bit older. Eventually, these Tigers are going to, hit the wall of being too old. Look at Bill Freehan, 74. My goodness. 297, 18 bombs. See what I mean? Like, you get these outliers. One of their star traditional players from the 68 series, it's been Northrop, it's been McAuliffe, Horton. Now it's Freehan, who just comes out of nowhere. I have no idea where this batting average comes from. But what the Tigers could do is they could move 72 Freehan to the 74 card, and then they could bring in Kaline, Coleman, and Norm Cash's 72 cards. They have Lolich, Hiller, Terrell, Northrop, and McAuliffe in other years. So let's look at their rookies. Well, this is the team that's always looking for a third baseman. They were presented with the Angels' third baseman, Dave Chalk, and they just took him in the expansion draft. Angels didn't want him, and Tigers took him. Well, he's a 2 third baseman, folks. You might see this guy in the World Series. We've seen the Tigers go from Elliot Maddox at third, Clete Boyer at third, Billy Grabarkowitz at third. And it could be Dave Chalk this year. Nothing glamorous, but he's a 2. Gene Lamont, left-handed hitting catcher. A lot of homers. He's okay. 217. Hey, you got a young Ron LaFleur, but you know what? I don't know if you got a spot for him yet. Your outfield's crowded. You got Willie Horton. You have Jim Northrop. You have Mickey Stanley. You have Al Kaline. So your outfield's full of players. So I don't know if you want to bring LaFleur in quite yet. Maybe let him get a little bit more seasoning. Bring him in next year. Laren LeGros, starter 6. He could pitch on 3 days rest, but I don't know why you'd want it. That's pretty bad. Dave Lemanchek, relief starter. Homers and walks, that's a bad combination. 3.99 ERA. Well, promising though. I mean, you can see the potential there with Chalk, possible LaFleur for the Tigers. They're gonna, and they're in division with Cleveland, Expos. So, you got to remember that Cleveland and Detroit are always going to do better than they did during this time because they're not in the American League East anymore. They don't have to battle Baltimore, Boston, and New York. The last team is the Ohio Players. And the Ohio Players, it's Cepeda, the big trade for Vida Blue, Doc Ellis. Cepeda's got a better year in 73, and he finally runs out of gas here in 74. Just a 215 year. Vida Blue is a starter 7. 326 ERA, 17-15. The question you have to ask, is this the first overall pick in the draft? And frankly, it's fine. I mean, fly ball to 9 there, that 17 there. It's fine, but I think you've got to get a better performance of Blue in 72, 73, or 75 to justify the first overall pick in the draft. Again, this is one of the reasons why Oakland moved on from him. He just doesn't do what he did in 1971. American League, Cy Young, and most valuable player. He just doesn't do that anymore. Doc Ellis. He's only a starter 6. This is a good card. 12-9, 3.15 ERA, but it's only in 177 innings. We'd like to have him pitch on 3 days rest. Now, they already have Tom Hall on their team with Rudy May, Lynn McLaughlin, they got in the deal, Gene Clines, Darryl Thomas, Larry Lentz, Bill Robinson, and Driesen. Let's look at their rookies. And again, just like we saw with Toronto's rookies, they don't have a farm system because they're fictional, so they're going to collect guys other teams don't want. Enos Cabell was probably with Baltimore before Houston. He's with Baltimore, 241. Corner infielder, first and third. Can play outfield here. Nothing exciting. Larry Demiri has a pretty good card in 73, I believe. This one kind of gets knocked around. John Moreland walks a lot of guys in the bullpen. 4.29 ERA, 65 innings. Nothing special there for Ohio. So I'm not sure what they're going to do in the year 74. Yeah, that's going to be a tough choice. And, that's why we have a waiver pool. There's some good guys on waivers, and if you don't have good guys in your stack of players in a particular year, that's where you have to look to find something you like. We've gone through half the American League tonight. The American League East, American League North. We'll continue this box, and we'll get into the American League Midwest and West next time we do this. 1974, year 3 of the 1972-75 Carryover League. Hope you're enjoying looking at these cards. We'll see you next time.